Teamster Power 767 Reality Check with Jeff Schenfeld and Garfield Hooper.
This is Teamster Power 767 Reality Check. Today I have Ben Deets, feeder driver out of the Independence Hub, and Garfield Hooper, a package car driver out of the McKinney Hub. Today we're going to be talking about Article 18, safety. A lot of things, some old language, some new language, some things we just want to go over. So recently, Ben, you noticed some things in the McKinney Hub?
Yeah, there was a few things. I noticed they have some ice machines sitting in the back that haven't been installed.
Oh.
So hopefully we can try to find out if they're going to install them during the summer when we need them, or if it's going to be after peak.
Oh, jeez. Obviously after the summer at this point.
Obviously
right?
after the summer at this point.
Yeah.
We definitely need them now, though.
Yeah. I mean, it's... so let's. I guess we'll just start with it. I mean, I don't think many people even think about it with the ice machines that they have to be cleaned.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess if you have bags, and what was the language? It says that either or, if they buy ice, they don't have to clean the machines. Is that what it kind of says in the contract?
Well, it says they have to clean the machines or they have to get the ice delivered.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, if they have ice is still considered a food.
Mm-hmm.
So it needs to be clean. No different than if you were going to a restaurant and getting a drink. You don't want to find mold and dirt in your cup.
No. And they have never cleaned any of them.
Yeah, the ones
That's
in the
crazy.
McKinney, and this is a big gripe I had when the McKinney Center opened. 'Cause, Ben, you'll remember this, is they put those little bitty office ice and water dispensers all over the building that stood about 4 foot tall, and it would take you all day to fill up a cooler with ice in it.
Yeah.
And, it'd take you probably 3 or 4 minutes to fill up like a Yeti cup full of water.
Yeah.
And they put them all over the building. They barely worked.
Yeah.
And, it was like, oh, well, this is good. And they had 2 more industrial ones back by the mechanics bay, but most people didn't even know they were back there. And today, I've never seen any of them cleaned.
Yeah.
I certainly wouldn't drink out of any of them.
Yeah, they definitely need to have some kind of a schedule or a maintenance plan for somebody to come out and clean them.
Yeah.
If they're going to own this stuff and they're going to put them in there and, it's contractually it's going to be in there, contractually there should be, something in there about a schedule. They have to have them cleaned like once a month or something. Some sort of a sheet that they can keep on each one of them that, they have to hire out a service to come and keep them cleaned once a month, change out the filters, clean out the fans and all that kind of stuff so that, somebody that's just like looking to get water, doesn't come up there and, drink mold-infested water or ice
E. coli.
E. coli. Yeah.
And that's part of the warranty on an ice machine anyway.
Yeah.
So to keep the warranty active for the machine to work, you have to keep it clean.
Yeah.
I don't think they've ever been cleaned, so that's a huge problem.
Yeah. We had one in the Sherman Center for all of our drivers that, every morning people would come in and stick their coolers just up underneath there and get ice out of it. And, it had water. Very rarely people actually use the water thing. But for a while I was clerking and, once a month, like clockwork, I would see somebody come up there and clean that place out.
Yeah.
But, nobody's ever seen anybody clean the ones in the McKinney Hub.
Yeah.
No.
And it works the same way as like your house air conditioner.
Mm-hmm.
If you clean it, your air gets cooler in your house.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it actually makes more ice when it's clean.
Yeah.
So instead of it only making a few pounds an hour, it can make 50 pounds an hour.
And it's
most of those ice machines make 500 pounds a day.
Yeah.
And it's going to need to keep up with, 150, 200 drivers.
I don't understand something. So we use Ready Ice.
Yeah.
How is it? I mean, we probably use more ice than anyone else. How is it that they sometimes can't make the delivery? I try to understand. I try to understand that. It's a mystery.
So, I had this argument with our division manager back, I think it was last summer.
Yeah.
Because they were having struggles because nobody was able to get ice.
Yeah.
Even some of the gas stations were running out of ice. They weren't able to get it delivered. And he explains it to me. He's like, the problem isn't that they can't make the ice. The problem is they can't get anybody to deliver it. And I said, Ruben, this is a logistics company. You're telling me that we can't get one of those empty box trucks out there, go fill a couple of pallets full of ice, and bring it over here and load up our ice machine? You could get 3 or 4 drivers to come in early if they thought that it would mean everybody in the center to get ice. You could pay them. Probably be cheaper than having a ready ice deliver them.
Well, they do. I mean, when they run out, we in Dallas, in our center, the Bachman Center, the driver just goes out, gets a truck, goes with someone else, goes to Kroger, wherever he has to go get the ice for as much ice as he can get. They give him the credit card, and he does what he has to do. I mean, but it shouldn't have to be that way. You know what I'm saying? I mean, it should be, okay, let's provide it. Let's not give excuses why, we can't get it. And let's not. Didn't it happen once where they were picking and choosing who was getting it?
Yeah. That was when I got walked out for 2.5 weeks because one of their supervisors, brand new supervisor, was handing out ice to people on the Frisco side because one of the Frisco supervisors provided it.
Sure.
He went and bought however many bags he can find and had it in there. And only the Frisco soups were getting it. And when I found that out, I went over there and got a couple of bags of ice.
It's disparate treatment.
And he tried to stop me and claimed that I assaulted him when I tried to grab a couple, despite the fact that I had 10 drivers behind me to get ice for, And then, I sat out for 2.5 weeks, and they never disciplined me. They paid me for 8 hours every day I was out. Yep. And then the Thursday after all that came up, they basically called me at 8:30 in the morning begging me to come to work because my route was going to sit.
Of course, because the business got in the way, right?
Don't plan ahead.
Yeah.
So so that's something that, I mean, it's specific things in the contract. They got to add ice machines or whatnot. Yeah. We got to hold them to it. What does it come down to? It comes down to enforcing it.
Yeah.
That's always it, no matter what language.
Yeah.
I mean, the last contract we had, a horrible contract. Yeah. We had to enforce it. We had to do what we had to do.
I mean, it's our jobs. Whether we like the contract or not, that's our jobs.
It is. So I just want to talk about another thing also. Inside the hub, those fans.
Yeah.
They've never been cleaned. They are shooting dust.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, the hub workers that's horrible.
We've had hub workers offer to come in early. Like, hey, can I come in 30 minutes early in the morning and clean these fans? Yeah. No, we can't. We can't do that. We can't have you doing that.
But that's something we need to hold the company to because it's actually a problem. Yeah. But no one has. I mean, myself too. I mean, I think it's something we need to do and keep on the company, put it on the concerns log. Yeah. Just
like the ice machines, those things need to be cleaned because, like, if you're just circulating that dust, it's just like working out county roads, just like I do. It's not great breathing in that dust. You do what you can to prevent it. Sometimes I'll wet down a do-rag and put it over my mouth if I'm going down a particularly gravel road out there. But, you got to do what you got to do. But there's no reason why that should be a problem inside of a hub.
No, I mean, they got to protect the part-timers, the 23s. Everyone's got to be protected. Yeah. It doesn't matter who it is. And they just don't seem to care, right? I mean, it's so another thing, the response teams. What are your thoughts on the response teams?
Oh, well, they need to establish them. That's part of the new contract is that we have a heat response team that if you're in your center, you can call if another driver that's been designated, if you're feeling sick, you can't get a hold of the manager or they're too far away, you can call the driver next to you or whoever's been designated and they can help call 911 for you or whatever needs to be done.
And there was a grace period. No, of course. How could there be a grace period? I mean, was it 10? It was 10 days. But even 10 days, it should have been implemented. Like you were saying, we were talking about it. It should have been implemented day one. That's not something that you mess around with.
We talked about it a few minutes ago before we started. The company was ready because these ice machines have been sitting in the McKinney Center for months. Yeah. So they knew it was going to be in the contract. They were ready. They've got them sitting out there ready to be installed wherever they're going to be installed. Obviously not at the McKinney Center, but wherever they're going, they're there. Why wasn't our union ready to have these people assigned? I mean, why didn't we know about this stuff ahead of time? He's like, hey, I need to know before this gets ratified, who do you want to be your responders? Yeah. And we could have had that taken care of, and day one we could have had those responders ready.
And the bigger problem is we had people who were on the negotiating committee, and you'd think, okay, let's get this done. We know what we have to do because, they were on the negotiating committee, but nothing. And I just... That's frustrating for me. It is, negotiating committee. Okay, what good is that going to do us?
Yeah, if you know it's coming, you can plan for it.
Yep, exactly.
And nothing was planned.
Yeah, no, nothing was.
And all it would take was, hey, get with your stewards in each center. Let's pick 5 people, or a certain percentage of the center that, in case somebody's off, you have a backup. Everybody knows who they are. You have their phone number posted somewhere. You know who to call.
Yeah, it's a shame that the situation had to happen with Chris. I mean, it just, and I'll always say this. I said it last time. I said it again. What's the acceptable loss for this company?
Yeah, and that should be 0.
Should be.
It should be 0, and that's they're trained to do certain things and see things, but as a human being, you saw whatever the case may be. You saw someone in distress. You got a call. The person was on the floor. I'm going to say something that really, really bothered me. I don't know why we only had we had a president and one of the BAs come out after this, but yet when we had the strike authorization vote and we had the vote yes tour, all hands on deck, everybody.
Yeah.
How is that okay?
Within a day or two, they were all out.
Yep.
Yeah.
But for the response for Chris, it just wasn't there.
Yeah. That's a shame. That's bad. That's bad. That's.
And we had a lot of complaints too. Just like I was saying, our safety guy going at our division manager, he's got a laundry list of pictures and things like that of things of egress issues in the building, load quality issues, things like that. And, I feel like he was there because he had to be, not because he needed to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's so many things could have been avoided, but it
definitely could have been something to do prevention on instead of just being reactive to it.
Yeah.
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 That's a problem. But that's a problem I've complained about. UPS for years. They react to things. They don't plan for them.
Oh yeah. And I think
Christmas comes the same day every year.
And again, I'm going to say this again that the ACs, whenever they decide to get in, they put them in the trucks. Whenever that is.
Yeah.
It's really about how can the company. Why wasn't it discussed that after a certain temperature they got to add more routes?
Yeah.
I think that's a big thing.
Part of the new language says they have to take the weather based off of certain temperature in your area, and they're supposed to plan the dispatch around that. They advertise on their website for UPS. We have our own meteorologist teams. They plan all the planes to fly around to make it on time for that, but they don't use that weather when it's 110 in certain areas, Arizona, Texas, Florida. They know it's going to be 110. But they still plan to cut routes. They could be adding routes so everybody has an 8-hour day, and they're not going to be stuck in the heat.
Yeah, and that's the thing too is it heat stroke or heat exhaustion or whatever doesn't happen in one day.
Nope.
You have if you've got a person that's out until 9 or 10 o'clock when it's 110 degrees, that person is not ready. Doesn't have the time to get ready for the next day. They don't have the time to get a good night's sleep. They don't have time to have a good meal. They don't have time to properly hydrate before they go to bed. Yeah. And if you live more than 20, 30 minutes away from the building, that's adding that much more time to you driving to and from, and that's less time you get to rest. Ruben's one of Ruben's best things to tell me when I bring this stuff up is, well, I got to get people to come to work. And we've got almost a third of our center out on injuries right now. Quite a few of them are heat related. But, I was like, well, how many of these could have been avoided if you had just put in the right amount of work, right amount of routes to begin with, instead of forcing people to stay out until 10 or 11 o'clock.
Yeah, and they always have that.
People home.
Yeah, sending people home.
And they talk about, stop count. I could care less. Yeah. About you have to maintain a stop count. How about lives?
Yeah.
How about lives? It's
work-life balance has been a huge problem in my center for a long time.
Yeah, it's definitely a problem.
And it's another one of my complaints about this contract is it didn't really address that. That was what a lot of people would have liked to have seen in the Southern Supplement. We would have liked to have seen more option days. Would have loved to have seen either another week of vacation, or my solution would have been to, instead of moving, what was it, the fourth week or the third week to 9 years instead of 10?
That's
move
like a slap
all
in
of
the
them.
face.
Move all of them back 5 years.
Yeah.
There
are places that have it at 5 years, 7 years, and you really should. That was important.
Yeah.
And again, the same thing happens in the contract. So you say they have their own meteorologist, UPS.
Yeah.
So let's say they just bypass it. They do what they always do. They don't care. They violate the contract. What's the repercussions?
There aren't really any.
Exactly. They're not.
But when they need to use it, when there's a winter storm coming,
course.
they move it. Everything going to, say, Chicago has bad weather.
Yeah.
They go through and they click a few buttons. It sends everything down here to Texas. They sort it, and then it continues on to California, so it doesn't get delayed.
Yeah.
So they can plan it when it's going to affect their bottom dollar, but if it's going to affect the driver and an injury, they're not using it for what they could be.
Yeah, this is no. I hate this word "shall." The employer shall monitor environmental conditions as close to the individual work site as possible, including a daily check of the National Weather Service or use of the OSHA.gov or similar sources for temperature data.
Is that like taking your seniority into consideration? It's the same thing. I mean, it's
it's now it's honor.
Honor. Yeah, exactly. Even though the language after it says, basically if the business gets in the way, so they have a loophole in that. Anyway, so
I mean, it's sad enough that we have to have that in the contract, but do they really need a meteorologist to know in July and August it's going to be over 100 in Texas?
Yeah,
heat index 150.
Arizona, New Mexico, Florida. Yeah,
in the back of the truck it's 140.
Yeah,
or higher.
Yeah, it's that's out of control. So let me ask you something. So you're in feeders. Any language specifically?
We can go over a couple of the language. They did make some changes to some of the safety language in this Article 18. The first one is the trailer configuration. It's basically, if you're not in feeders, it's when you're carrying 2 trailers, you have the right now if you need to. So you always want to have the heavy trailer in the front when you have 2 of them. Because if you don't, if you have like an empty trailer in the front and the heavy one in the back one when you're driving just going to start wobbling. It could
start bouncing
bring
off
you
the
off
road.
the road. Yeah, it can go in the lane
that's
next
dangerous.
to you. So that can be dangerous. So this gives you the right to, whenever you get it, if you're at the hub, you have the right to check it, or they have to break the seal and open it so you can check and see actually, because sometimes the paperwork, the computer will say, hey, the trailer's 20% when it's really 100.
Yeah,
it might not be right or whatever, and if you feel like it's wrong, now you have the right to pull over, have them break the seal, and you can have it checked. So if you need to switch it, you can. So you're not going all over the road, especially in a feeder truck.
Is that like if a package, it says it's only 1 pound, but it really weighs 100 pounds?
Yeah.
It's the same thing. I'm not going to take your word for it now, but at least now they, you can do something about it. But I mean, with everything going on, I remember a couple of years ago when I was a BA in the Dallas hub, older lady had some heat issues and supervisors were gathering and not doing anything. I walked in and I looked at the woman. I said, okay, we'll call 911. Like, I had to tell them to call 911. I don't get it.
Yeah.
I mean, I do. I know what they're trying to do. They don't want to have an injury, this and that, but so we should have a death.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's bothersome because it's going to keep happening. It's going to keep happening. And what I didn't see in the contract, like I said, again, it's preventatives. A lot of preventatives, that's by, being able to, even we thought there was going to be something in there maybe about, being able to bring the truck back at some point, but that never made it into the language.
It's kind of confusing how the 8-hour language is. Now, it sounds like you can, but it also kind of specifies, hey, this is based on you finishing your work.
Yeah, I specifically asked him that at the big contract meeting. He was like, "No, under no circumstances does this bring your truck back to work."
It also says you don't have to work over 8 hours.
But we got to reiterate that you cannot just bring your truck back.
Yeah,
absolutely not. But again, confusing, but it's don't ever do that.
But one of the good things too, also, is they have if you're in the hub or you're not a driver, you're also now allowed to bring your phone into the hub.
Yeah.
So that could be a big thing too. Like if you need to call, now you have access to call.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Instead of being restricted to leave your phone in your car.
Yeah.
Or if you have family you need to call, come pick you up, or whatever the situation might be, now at least you can have control to handle that on your own.
Yeah, no, that's good. That's good. Also, going to egress. So now I think there's some language in there that they say that not only the company can monitor it, so can the union.
Yes.
Yeah. So I'm going to tell you there was a situation that happened in one of the buildings. I got a call. Jeff, what do I do? I wanted to go over and help. This was happening. They didn't let me go check it out. I said, okay. I mean, so if you see egress, what do? You file.
Yeah.
It's against the contract. That's it. I mean, you file on it. And you put it on the concerns log. Because the most important thing, if you take Article 18 down to the panel, first thing the committee is going to ask you, was it on the concerns log? If it's not, it gets thrown out. That's important. Everything's on the computer now. So you just got to keep up. You just got to keep up with that. That's important. I mean, you got to hold them to it. I mean, unless we hold them to it, they're going to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
I mean, that's the problem. That's a huge problem. But I mean, we got to have the people, at the hall to enforce it. And, I think that's a whole other issue.
Yeah.
Or knowing who to go to get it actually filed and done correctly.
Or answer a call or exactly. Know the language. I mean, that's the big problem too. But I mean, so there was some things. I mean, there were some other things we'll talk about another time. But this was mainly, what we want to talk about: the ice machines, the fans, just the egress issues, just things that we have to hold the company to it. We got to enforce it.
As a former BA, I'd like to ask your opinion on something.
Yeah.
Like when you see that egress,
yeah,
stop the belt, let them clean it up, right?
Oh, we go right to it. What we do is egress is actually the dropping a box and picking it back up, not stacking outside.
Oh, okay.
You can't stack. That's not right.
I mean, that's
not right at all.
Especially if you're
there's no temporary
loading
egress.
a trailer and they're all over the floor. I've seen trailers.
Yeah.
You've seen them on the news where the trailer catches on fire if the packages are stacked up 5 feet.
Yep.
How are you going to get out?
Yeah.
Well, even as a steward, as a BA, we walk the building. We look on each side.
Yeah.
And we make sure it's clean. We stop them right there. We said, you need to clean this. We'll give them an opportunity to do the right thing, and we'll stay there until they do it. Because I don't want to hear about, I left the building, all of a sudden there was a fire. Like you guys said, something happens. Like in Arlington, there's a bunch of fires. I mean, you got to be careful with that. You can't get out.
Yeah.
And you got to look for it. Everyone's got to be attuned to look for that stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, that's something that for years I've been looking at. And egress, they play it off like it's not a big deal.
Yeah.
Egress is a very big deal.
Yeah.
Egress in the trucks, that can cause an injury, right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
I mean, egress, they can't have it, with, right by the, the exits and whatnot, but it's a big deal, and UPS makes it like, oh, whatever, you know.
Yeah.
So until we start holding them to it,
yeah,
they're
and
gonna
it can
keep doing
change quick because if you notice, like some of the newer hubs, like my hub at Independence, Haslett, Arlington, they all have everything's automated, so those belts go 20, 30 miles an hour, shooting packages to where they need to go.
Yeah.
So the packages can add up real quick when they're coming.
Yeah. And I had this conversation with some preloaders not too long ago. They're like, well, they get onto us if we stop the belt. I was like, I don't care. Like, your safety is important. If you got to clean up these areas, you got to clean up those areas.
Yeah.
And if they come over and turn the belt back on, then they're violating. Then they're violating the safety rules. Because if you turn that belt off, you're supposed to be the one to turn it back on.
Do you hear anyone in management saying safety first anymore?
I mean, I hear it. I don't believe it.
I haven't heard
hear it.
I don't remember the last time I heard it.
You might hear it, but you don't see it.
Yeah.
Exactly. No, it's the truth.
Actions speak louder than words.
That's perfect. Yeah, exactly. I mean, it was always safety first until the business gets in the way, right? Yeah. Anyway, they try to tell you to do all these things, but they don't do it themselves.
Yeah.
I mean, they're the biggest. I mean,
the person that trained me on from UPS said something that always stuck with me. Everybody's sorry when the ambulance comes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
know. It's everyone's got to, I think for ourselves, we can't trust the company to do it. Like for the hub workers, if before we leave in the morning as drivers, we look and make sure that everyone's doing okay. The part-timers, we take a walk around the building, steward or not a steward.
Yeah.
You go around, check for each other. Because, I mean, you'll see people. I've seen people in trailers. I'm like, no, you're done. It's time for you to get out of that trailer.
Yeah.
And you call management over and you tell them this is what's happening. You can't really ask. I mean, you have to be like, something's going to happen to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they start fighting you. That's a problem. So, but one of the things I had posted, if there are heat-related issues, because you're in the heat, call 911. If it's that bad, you call 911.
Yeah.
There are cases where you can call manager. What do you want me to do? But if it's that bad, don't worry about it. You're not going to be fired.
No.
Just do what you have to do to protect yourself.
Or if you're a driver and there's a care now and you feel that sick,
exactly.
Check yourself in and then
that's it.
Call.
Yeah.
And let them know I had to pull over.
Yeah, because if you don't,
so let them know where you are. Let them know where the truck is. They can come get it. Send somebody out here to pick it up or whatever they need to do.
Well, the biggest thing is when I was a VA, what I found out is why people get fired and stay fired. They don't communicate.
Yeah.
You have to communicate.
You always let them know. Yeah.
You have to, no matter what.
And do it in the board. Communicate in the board.
Yeah, absolutely. Oh, document everything.
Yeah.
So,
or they should also have as part of plan, the injury plan, they should have every route should have like a designated cool zone area. So if you're on a new route, you've never ran it before, you know a few of the spots where to go that has either good AC or shade or something where you can go cool down.
It doesn't have a problem.
Yeah. As part of the new contract, the language says they have to have adequate water. Mm-hmm. So if they're telling you, hey, you need to drink 2 bottles an hour, you're planning on working 10 hours a day, you're supposed to have 20 bottles of water ready.
Absolutely.
According to them, and they're supposed to provide that.
Yep.
Yeah.
But I've heard of them limiting how much water you can take in the mornings.
Yeah, I've heard them sometimes try to say like
they don't even offer water in our building. They have it for the part timers.
Yeah.
They don't have it for the drivers.
Yeah.
I mean, this is what we've known. We've been with the company for a long time, and this is what they do. We have to do our part.
Yeah.
Right.
And hopefully maybe sometime we can get language where if they don't have it, you can get some kind of a per diem for the week. Hey, they didn't have ice on Tuesday. Yeah. You get, $10 a day or whatever.
Absolutely.
Whatever we
something.
Work out. Something so you can go get it during the day. Because even if they give you ice at 9 a.m, at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, is that ice going to still be there?
Yeah.
Why they always, the company always has an out.
Yeah. And, and the thing too is like, oh, well, I came to work thinking that, I was going to have water here and I didn't bring any. So I'm going to stop and get some out there. Oh, well, you didn't clock out when you stopped to get water. So now you're fired because you were stealing time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. They try anything. They just try anything. And that's where people have to know their rights. They have to know the contract. It can't just be the stewards or people, the members. All the members have to know certain things for their own self.
And I'm not asking them to know it word for word, front to back.
No.
But they need to certainly know the articles that pertain to them.
Yeah. Yeah. Is it going to get worse before it gets better? The worst is, I think the worst just happened.
Yeah.
We don't want that to happen again.
Yeah. But hopefully it sparks some change where we get some improvements
hopefully.
That we actually need.
Yeah. We're hoping. I know it hit home, especially for you guys.
Yeah. We both worked with them for a long period of time.
Yeah. And this should never happen. No one should be, you guys, family, this shouldn't be going through any of this stuff.
No.
So, but
there's a lot of families that have had to deal with heat-related illness due to this job. Yeah. And now, they see this and they're like, well, when's the day that, my husband or wife or my child isn't going to come home because it got too hot out there.
Yeah.
And it's people got to know when they're at their limit and they've got to call 911 or they've got to go to the hospital. They can't wait.
No question. Yeah. They just can't be afraid. It's their own health. It's their own. Everything else you worry about after. You take care of yourself. Because if you don't take care of yourself.
Yeah.
They'll
replace you.
Yeah.
They'll replace you in a heartbeat. Don't worry about them.
Yeah, they've proven that. They really don't care. But listen, guys, I appreciate you both being here. Ben, Garfield. Safety obviously really was extra important recently. And it just, there was some things lacking.
And if you don't know the safety people in your hub, or if you don't have a safety committee, or, let the hall know that a safety committee needs to be formed, because, Jeff is right. Like, if there's a concern with safety, whether it be load quality, egress, ice machines, whatever, stuff needs to go on the concern log first. I know it's an extra step, but, it's something we got to follow, Yeah.
And we got to get the union to make sure that we get our heat response team set up so you have your people in your area that who to contact, because that should have already been done.
Yep.
And that could have definitely, I feel like that could have helped Chris if there was somebody else closer.
Yeah.
That could have responded quicker or gave him a different response.
We know communication's a big
big
issue, but I'm glad we talked about the some of these safety issues, and no matter what, whether there's good language, whatever or not. We have to enforce it. Everyone's got to enforce it. Everyone's got to be able to stick up for themselves.
What we did get, we do need to step up and make sure we get what we're entitled to.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Thank you, guys. This is Teams to Power 767 Reality Check. Thanks.
Our experiences deal largely with the Southern Region Supplement. This is just an information podcast, and if you have questions, it's best to contact your local steward or business agent.
And remember, strong people stand up for themselves, but the strongest people stand up for others.